Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you my thoughts on the Sentinel situation. No, I'm nobody, but I am somebody that has put his opinion about Sentinels and especially Kaplan on the internet, on YouTube. So, it would be weird to just leave it there. Uh, now mind you, I'm not on VLR or Reddit threads going like, "Grr, ah, rrr," but I have ranted about I don't know what the fuck Kaplan's smoking over at Sentinels. If you just so happen to see my videos about VCT kickoff. Now, the situation is a bit of a mess, but I think everybody's overreacting. Really, if I'm being honest, maybe it's because I'm a grown ass man that doesn't work in esports, just talks about them, but it just feels like a lot of this is an overreaction from everybody. Um, so, Sentinels announced that Ewok is replacing Kaplan. Rob Moore gives more information on stream while watching the LCS about why the decision to remove Kaplan was made. And we also have some information about what Zekin was saying about the situation because Zekin's name was brought up. I don't believe John QT has said anything, and Zelsa seems to be eating it up. So with that, I I have questions, and first I want to talk about why I don't think this is this big of a fucking deal. Listening to what Rob Moore said and having the breakdown, right? A lot of people are like, "Oh, Kaplan got thrown under the bus." Yeah, sure, if that's what we want to call it. But you were going to ask why they fired Kaplan. You were going to ask. And then, because this is how things go, you weren't going to let it go. The same way that it's still, oh, what happened? As you can see here, what happened with Jonah P and the guard? We're doing that shit on broadcast. 4 weeks after the event, 5 weeks, even though they're still winning shit, you're going, well, I know you just won this random off-season tournament with Baby Bay. Not even random. It was fucking I forget which one. Why? But Jonah P. So the community won't shut the fuck up about any change. You would have asked Rob Moore every day, how could you let go of Kaplan? He told you. He told you why they got rid of Kaplan. And uh, he gave some more information about just overall shit. Where, and there's a lot of questions here. There's a lot of fucking questions here that I don't think people are thinking through because they're so hurt on Kaplan's behalf. I'm not going to say that Kaplan probably isn't a little bit embarrassed. It would be insane not to be. But there's a lot here that people aren't considering with the situation. First off, sure, alright, Rob could have not said anything at all. That's true, point blank. Kaplan has been taking it with a lot more grace than some of you. And then we go to, let's talk about some of these things. So, Rob Moore says coaches previously had final say on roster moves, not doing that for new coaches. Which, usually you have a GM for that shit. But okay, cool. Now, I remember this with Psycho, who apparently, I don't know what gets into the head of coaches over at Sentinels because they now have this luxury, but I remember Psycho going, like, trying to show off how big and bad he was. Oh, we were doing whatever. There was no, like, wasn't even going to guarantee that Tens was going to be on the roster. So I can't blame Rob for going, look, that's 2 times that my coaches have been smoking shit. Nobody's getting that. Next up, Sentinels did not see eye to eye with Kaplan. I heard more about this situation. Apparently, Rob took the chance and backed his boy Kaplan versus everybody else that disagreed with some of the changes, such as wanting Zekin off Duelist and John off IGL, but wanting to keep Zosis and Narrate. So, let's talk about that situation in totality. Well, for as much as I can fucking know as just a bystander or watcher, right? You took a gamble taking Tenge off Duelist, and he ended up being a good controller. When things go wrong, you're probably looking, if I'm Kaplan, like this is the leeway for Kaplan here. If things go wrong at Paris, you have to figure out what to do. And your solution is shaking up everything. All right, John's calling was looking pretty bad. John, you're off IGL. We didn't get enough duelist out of our out of one of the best duelists, and we're coming to that. Uh, you're off a duelist, and you know what? Bang, you're out. And then I have more questions about Kaplan's decisions too, past that, right? So instead, we might keep Zelsis and Narrate's going to duelist. Hmm, questionable as fuck. So, because of this, Sentinels did not pursue a duelist contract with Zekin, one of the best duelists in the world. Yeah, if I'm Rob, I'd be heated here too. John QT is IGL again, and coming to that, while we want to talk about drama and not saying shit, John said something in comms at one of the games that I still think broadcast was wrong as fuck for broadcasting. After calling around and it winning while he's fragging out his fucking mind, he says something along the lines of, "That's why you let me call around. I'll get you the win." Don't think you should have let that slip because maybe it is in the back of John's mind that he should be IGL. Don't let that shit slip. And I can't blame John for saying that in the heat of the moment. And on top of that, right? On top of that, I've now heard very conflicting information about John IGL's situation. It seems like John is just a guy that enjoys his job because you have news that he didn't want to IGL anymore anyway, and then he's fragging out his mind. So cool, maybe there's some truth to that. But then you have moments like that where it's like, well, hold on. It sounds like he was told not to IGL again. And yeah, that's insane apparently. Center starting trials, Jonah P was mentioned, I already rented about that, but it's like, hey, if we want to talk about you just don't say anything, G2 have said close to nothing about the Jonah P situation. Apparently, anybody that knows the Jonah P situation has gone, it's not worth talking about. It's not our news, and it's not anybody's fault. But yet, we're still talking about the Jonah P G2 situation. So clearly, shutting the fuck up about a situation doesn't work around here. Two roster changes expected. Caillou is out. Narrate probable too. Caillou I feel bad for. Narrate, I don't know. Caillou I feel bad for because he kinda got put into a shit situation. Where, now this is my next thing, going on to these Kaplan decisions, if he had final say on the roster, at one point, you had the possibility of a roster containing, well, it probably would have still been Narrate, right? But we knew Zelsis was out. From the timeline, I think Zelsis was guaranteed gone, right? But you had Narrate, Zekin, Bang, John QT, and let's not act like Redux wasn't getting promoted the second there was a spot. So, instead, forcing, if you didn't want Zekin Duelist anymore for whatever reason, Instead, you have this roster and drop Bang, one of the best performing controllers. You take one of the best duelists off his role, take one of the best IGOs off his role. Bring up Cupid Academy? Why? Why would you then bring up Cortesia, Caillou, and Redux? Yeah, quite frankly, you were going to get fired for that shit. Quite frankly, you were going to get fired for that shit if you have final roster say. And this is what you choose to do with my roster? My money? Yeah, no, you'd get fired for that shit. But, especially if you're like, hey, uh, look, I know it looks questionable as fuck. Give me a moment to show you that I'm not smoking shit. And then you get the results that you do in kickoff 1-3, only beating a team that looks damn near worse than everybody, considering the situations, right? A full team, right? That just looks worse than everybody else. Yeah, you'd get fucking fired for that. So, when people want to ask, or now let's also go back to Rob kind of taking the brunt of shit. Again, I don't want to ride for the white millionaire guy. I don't give a fuck about this dude. But at the same time, you sit here and he's let you all say, damn, Rob, what are you doing with these roster moves this entire time? You lost Zekin? You lost Bang? You lost Zosis? Saucy and Tens are gone. You lost everybody, Rob. Damn, what are you doing, Rob? He sat here for months just taking that. Didn't say, yeah, that was actually Kaplan. When it finally blows the fuck up, yeah, I'd say some shit too. Probably. Being real. Said that if Tens wanted to come back, he just had to say the word. Cool. Understandable. Players had no hope of a major win. LOL. Let's be real. We looked at that roster. We knew that shit wasn't happening. There was a 3 hour window where Tarek would have faced Furia instead of Caillou. Funny. So, did Rob have to tell us this shit? No. Didn't have to. But combined with the fact that he's taken a lot of shit and didn't say anything during this entire mystery of why they look so bad and why the roster is the way it is, you have this, right? Now he says something. Now everybody's like, Rob, why'd you say something? Kaplan went with you to all the internationals. Let me tell you something about this, right? And this is where it's like, let's wonder truly about some of these things. If you give me a roster of Zekin, Zelsis, Tenge, John, QT, and Saucy, I better be making internationals. If you give me that roster and I don't make the internationals, guess what? My coach is gone. I'm fired if that's my team and we don't make international. Yes, they won Madrid. Note on that point. You won Madrid, where apparently, and we already knew this one, if Kaplan has had carte blanche about roster moves, I'm assuming that extends to the assistant coach, who we already saw. Not to say that Gunther's been bad, but you had a winning formula with Drew Spark. You weren't winning before Drew like that. You damn sure haven't won without him. You bring in Gunter, as we know, is Kaplan's boy. So that's your strike one of, alright, you got rid of somebody that helped you get the win. While two of your best are retiring with Saucy and Tens on top of that after situation, right? So you got rid of that situation. You bring in Gunter. Now you have to replace players, and it just doesn't look as good. So you've had a lot of time with Faith, Trust, and Pixie Dust, and it hasn't panned out. Yeah, he was getting fired eventually, especially if he had been the mastermind behind some of these decisions this entire time. Then I want to come over here to what Zekin was talking about. TLDR of what Zekin said on stream today. All orgs he wanted him that he trialed for wanted him on controller backslash second duelist. I call cap unless he only trialed for MIBR. I smell bullshit. That feels like riding for your boy, where you're like Kaplan was cool. He wasn't the only one that wanted to do it. He's like, so I was due. I remember in the clip, he's like, so I was due for a role change anyway, and I was down. That smells like Cap, and not no, not making a joke of Kaplan, but no, that smells like Cap, and you're riding for your boy, because what org besides MIBR having Aspas truly wants one of the best duelists in the world on not duelist? I don't believe it. I don't. Even if you have another system, like you already have, let's go with Cloud9, who we'll talk about in a second. You have Cloud9 and you have Oxy. Right now, Penny's now taking up that role. Sure, you couldn't predict anything. That's maybe one where I'd say, yeah, I have both Oxy and Zekin. We're doing double duelists. I don't see you going, all right, Oxy duelist, Zekin, thanks for coming, you're on smokes. Can't see that happening. Unless we are so deprived of controllers in the world. Look at NRG. They lose Psalm. They go, well, shit. We'll get the best controller of last year with Kiko. Alright, makes sense. Right? It's not like you couldn't find controllers. So that doesn't smell like this reeks. I don't know if that well, gotta expect that to be the truth. Doesn't sound like it though. Was in talks with Sen until he decided on MIBR. He enjoyed working with Sentinels and Kaplan, liked the system. Leaving was based on other reasons, not because of the org. That's in the clip. I'm pretty sure he says because of org or Kaplan. So, coming back to, can I just, there we go. Coming back to like this situation, people have started speculating. If it's not the org, and it's not the coach, it's gotta be other people on the roster. That's the speculation there. And while I'm a grown ass man that don't like talking about, well, I mean, they're adults, but like their frontal lobe isn't developed yet. I don't usually like to pry into that aspect of it, and I don't really want to continue that theory. But if that were to be true, and your coach is keeping players that contribute to that, compared to your ace in the hole Zekin, yeah, that's odd. I mean, you kicked Bang. I'm pretty sure Zekin would have known that Bang was out. He likes John. He was still rooting for John. So I don't know. But we don't know about that. That is purely speculation based off saying it wasn't Org, wasn't Kaplan. Cool. So, what does everybody give a fuck about this whole situation for? Besides it being, oh, Rob, no, you can't talk about why you let go the person that we were going to then ask you every fucking day about. Did Kaplan Would Kaplan have had a better exit from Sentinels in a different way? Probably, right? If they made him sit on his own fucking couch, or sorry, chair, or whatever, that would have been fucked up. I think that wouldn't have been cool. I don't think you can ask that man to record a video on the chair that he's recorded so many videos about other changes for. Don't think you can do that. Should they have put together a montage first? Probably. I think it's because it didn't follow the standard procedure of here's the highlight reel. Oh no, now welcoming Ewok. Yeah, probably looks worse. Probably looks worse. But at the same time, if I take a gamble on you and you're making these outrageous decisions, going back to coming off of a win and letting go of the assistant coach that helped you get there, and your track record is not looking hot with these decisions, and everybody's going to ask anyway, yeah, probably going to say something. So on Rob Moore's part, sure, probably should let Sentinels put together the highlight reel. Thanks for your time, Kaplan. Before you say anything. Probably. For everybody else, it's just not that bad. There was, if I'm Rob, I would say a lot worse if my coach has put me in this position where now, right? Let's talk about now. Now my roster that I was left with to figure out how to fix this shit after losing Zach and Bang. I have to figure out what I'm going to do in Zosis. I have to figure out what I'm going to do with John QT. Thank goodness he's staying. Redux. Thank goodness he's staying. Right? We kind of figured that. Caillou, Narrate, or and Cortesia. Or Cortesia. I've heard both. I'm sorry. Caillou's out. Narrate's probably out. Cortesia gets to stay, possibly, even though all three of the players I've just mentioned didn't look good. As we know, the only person that looked good was John. So you have to unfuck that situation. I don't have Zekin on my roster. I don't have Bang on my roster. And coming to Zosis, he wanted to keep Zosis, apparently. Zosis has been eating it up on Twitter. But Kaplan knew, according to Zosis, when Zosis first left, went from the org that he said he was ready to retire with, he's like, yeah, Kaplan knew that I wanted to IGL, and like that's kind of the only reason I left. I just wanted to be an IGL, wanted to do my thing, be an IGL, and I just wasn't going to be able to do that at Sentinels. And at Sentinels, we hear that you wanted to take John QT off of IGL. Meanwhile, we all expected the reason that Zosis is gone because John's right there, right? But by the sounds of it, you wanted to keep Zosis and Narrate, didn't want John as IGL, and you didn't want Zosis as IGL. Instead, you hire this kid from Academy. Now, again, this is a bit of a meta read. Like, not Valorant meta, but like a out there meta read. The only way I can see you promoting Qbert in this situation is to have some sort of leverage for when it blows the fuck up. You didn't let Zelsh's IGL apparently. Didn't want your trophy winning IGL to IGL anymore. Well, shit, if I'm going to say that it's going to be a new IGL and I can't afford Boaster to leave Fnatic, I guess, or Valen, right? If I can't get one of them, I'll get Qbert Academy. That way, it looks like I was just doing what Sentinels wanted and getting the Qbert Academy guys, right? I just did that. So it looks fucking weird, bro. It looks fucking weird. So I'll just end it off on there. If Rob Moore happens to see this, probably let them finish the real graphic, whatever the fuck, for the departure before you say anything. Anybody else that sees this, Rob could have said a lot fucking worse, and given Kaplan's track record right now, it doesn't make sense. So while everybody kind of loves Kaplan in the sense of, oh, he's been here, when decisions start looking funky, you're out. It's esports. I'm sorry. We all knew that. We all knew that. So now Zelsis is IGLing his ass off at Cloud9 the best he can. Zekin is partying with Ashbass. Bang is looking good on 100 Thieves. All the other teams that contain players that just left you look better than you did this season. I'd be fucking hot if I rode for you, and that's the case. 3 different teams. One lost every finals, sure, but they made it there. One lost to NRG in G2? Yeah, that's reasonable. Both of them got in. One of them also got stomped by NRG and had other situations that needed to be dealt with and still looked better. I'd be hot. Meanwhile, you're telling me that the person remaining on this roster isn't doing the role that he's been good at for this entire time. I'd be hot. I'd be hot. So that's that. If you like the video, like it. Got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.